I continued to work closely with Agent Rodriguez and Detective Harrison, sifting through Madison's financial records, helping them identify patterns and connections. The FBI was impressed by my detailed notes, my sharp memory, and my unwavering resolve. The problem, however, was catching Carlson. He was slick, sophisticated, and left few direct traces. He used cutouts and intermediaries, always maintaining a veneer of respectability. His entire operation, it turned out, spanned 3 states and had defrauded over $4 million from 20 to 30 victims. They needed more direct evidence, a smoking gun. Agent Rodriguez explained their plan to lure him out, but it was risky. Then an idea, both terrifying and exhilarating, took root in my mind. "Agent Rodriguez?" I said, my voice steady. "Carlson saw me at my husband's funeral. He remembers me as a confused, grieving widow. He would never suspect me. Let me be the bait." Agent Rodriguez initially balked. "Mrs. Walker, this is a federal operation. It's too dangerous." But I persisted, my maternal instinct surging, overriding all fear. He underestimated Madison because she was trusting. He underestimated me because I am an older woman. Let him make that mistake again. I explained how I could play the part of a befuddled senior citizen, worried about her daughter's financial future, seeking clarification from the esteemed Mr. Carlson. My years of teaching had made me an excellent actress, able to project authority, or in this case, harmless ignorance. After much deliberation, and with significant safeguards in place, the FBI agreed. The stage was set at the Sterling Cafe, a quiet, upscale spot downtown. It was transformed into a surveillance hub, discreetly wired with cameras and microphones. I wore a wire, cleverly hidden beneath my blouse. Agent Rodriguez briefed me meticulously, going over my cover story, reminding me of Carlson's known manipulative tactics. My heart hammered, but my resolve was unwavering. This was for Madison, for all the victims, for justice. Carlson arrived, impeccably dressed, radiating an air of polished confidence. He offered me a charming smile, a practiced, almost unctuous sympathy. "Elizabeth, how wonderful to see you. I was so sorry to hear about Madison's troubles. Such a bright young woman, but perhaps a little naive about the complexities of the financial world." His words, meant to soothe, felt like sandpaper on my skin. He ordered me a tea, then launched into his usual spiel, a condescending monologue about market fluctuations and unforeseen circumstances affecting Madison's portfolio, subtly trying to shift blame and confuse me further. But I wasn't the grieving widow he remembered. I was Elizabeth Walker, the teacher who always spotted the kid trying to pull a fast one. "Mr. Carlson," I said, my voice gentle, almost hesitant, "I remember you telling me at my husband's funeral that Madison was exceptionally bright, with a keen eye for investment. You said she had a future at Pinnacle, a real talent." I watched his eyes, a flicker of surprise, a slight widening. "And you specifically advised me not to worry about her career path, that she was in good hands with you." I leaned forward slightly, my gaze unwavering. Funny, isn't it, how a keen eye for investment suddenly became naive once her savings started vanishing into thin air, specifically into accounts linked to Mitchell Holdings LLC, the same entity I believe is tied to a certain villa in the Bahamas? His practiced smile faltered, the color drained from his face. "Elizabeth, I assure you, you've misunderstood. These are complex matters," he began, but his voice lacked its usual smooth conviction. "No, Mr. Carlson," I interrupted, my voice still soft but now laced with steel. "I haven't misunderstood anything. I understood perfectly when you used my husband's death, my daughter's grief, and your position of trust to orchestrate a sophisticated theft, not just from Madison but from dozens of others. You twisted my grief into a weapon against my daughter, and that, Mr. Carlson, is unforgivable." My words were his signal. Before he could react, Agent Rodriguez and a team of FBI agents swarmed the table. "Richard Carlson, you're under arrest." His face, a moment ago so composed, contorted into a mask of pure fury and disbelief. He had been so utterly, fatally wrong. He had underestimated an old woman. The arrest of Richard Carlson was the final domino. The full extent of his $4 million multi-state operation was uncovered. Jason Mitchell, Veronica Hayes, and Richard Carlson were brought to justice. The federal courthouse buzzed with anticipation during their sentencing. The judge, in a scathing address, condemned their actions, emphasizing the destruction of families and trust. Jason received 15 years in federal prison. Veronica, 12 years, and Richard Carlson, the architect of this web of lies, was handed a hefty 25-year sentence. Most of the stolen funds, including Madison's, were painstakingly recovered and returned to the victims. The resolution, though, was not just about punishment. It was about restoration, about reclaiming what was lost, and about finding new purpose. Madison, after the initial shock and pain, emerged from the crucible of betrayal stronger, more resilient. She didn't let the trauma define her as a victim. Instead, she chose to fight back, to turn her pain into purpose. She left Pinnacle Financial, which had tightened its security protocols and suffered significant reputational damage, and applied to the FBI. She was accepted into their financial crimes division, using her insider knowledge and personal experience to help others avoid the same fate. She became an agent, a true champion against fraud, turning her deep scar into a badge of honor. As for me, Elizabeth Walker, the retired teacher, I found a new, unexpected chapter in my life. The FBI, particularly Agent Rodriguez, recognized my unique observational skills, my methodical mind, and my unwavering commitment to justice. I became an informal advisor, sometimes brought in to consult on cases involving elder abuse or complex family dynamics. There was even a local newspaper article that called us the Walker Women, highlighting our combined efforts. My home, once a quiet retreat, now felt like a command center of quiet strength. I still gardened, I still read, but now I also offered insight and counsel, a quiet guardian watching over the financial landscape. Justice, I learned, wasn't about gleeful revenge, but about restoring balance, reclaiming dignity, and finding peace in self-respect. And perhaps the biggest lesson I taught those criminals, one they will reflect on for decades in their prison cells, is this: never ever underestimate an older woman. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching. The water wasn't the only thing bubbling that day. My entire world was about to boil over, betraying everything I thought I knew about family, friendship, and trust. They thought they'd gotten away with it, that their carefully constructed web of deceit was impenetrable, but they vastly underestimated an old teacher's knack for uncovering ugly truths. And trust me, dear viewer, the reckoning was going to be biblical, a calculated unraveling of every lie they ever spun. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Elizabeth, and for 62 years, I've tried to live a life built on kindness, hard work, and self-sacrifice. For 35 of those years, I poured my heart into teaching, shaping young minds, believing in the inherent good of people. After my husband, Robert, passed away 3 years ago, leaving a void that still aches, my world became smaller, centered even more intensely on my only daughter, Madison. She was my light, my pride and joy. At 36, Madison had built an impressive career at Pinnacle Financial, a prestigious investment firm. She was bright, ambitious, and perhaps a little too trusting, a trait I sometimes worried about, especially after Robert, her father, was gone. He was always her rock, the one who saw through pretense. I worried she missed that shield. My own life, though quieter since retirement, was comfortable. Robert had left me a decent pension and a small nest egg. I had my garden, my books, and of course, Madison. I was content, believing the biggest shocks of life were behind me. This particular day, I remember so clearly, started with such hopeful anticipation. It was Madison's 36th birthday, and I was planning a surprise party for her at her beautiful townhouse. She loved surprises, and I loved seeing her face light up. I had baked her favorite lemon meringue pie, bought dozens of balloons, and even convinced her best friend Veronica and her boyfriend Jason to help me with the decorations. Veronica, a close friend of Madison since college, also worked at Pinnacle Financial, and Jason, a charming, smooth-talking man, had been Madison's boyfriend for about a year. I'd always had a slight reservation about Jason, something about his eyes, a flicker of calculation I couldn't quite place. But Madison seemed so happy, so I pushed my doubts aside. I kept a spare key to Madison's house for emergencies, a convenience that, ironically, would save her. I let myself in around noon, expecting to find the house empty, ready for my secret mission. The moment I stepped inside, a strange quiet hung in the air, broken only by the faint sounds of music and laughter emanating from the master bathroom upstairs. Laughter, not Madison's. My heart gave a strange thump. I called out, "Madison? Veronica? Jason?" No answer, just a sudden hush from above. My teacher's intuition, honed over decades of sensing, when students were up to no good, prickled. I ascended the stairs silently, my movements soft on the plush carpet. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. Curiosity, or perhaps a premonition, pulled me closer. What I saw through that sliver of an opening made my blood run cold, then boil. There, in Madison's luxurious clawfoot tub, surrounded by frothy bubbles and rose petals, were Jason and Veronica. Naked, intimate. My daughter's boyfriend and her best friend. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my mouth to stifle a cry. My first instinct was pure, visceral shock and hurt for my sweet Madison. How could they? How could Veronica, her closest confidant, do this? How could Jason, the man Madison loved, betray her so completely? But then I heard their voices, soft, conspiratorial. "Madison is so easily deceived, isn't she?" Veronica purred, her voice dripping with malice, a sound I never knew she possessed. Jason chuckled, a low, guttural sound that made my stomach churn. "Absolutely. She practically hands us the keys to her kingdom. The Bahamas house is almost fully funded, darling." Bahamas house? Fully funded? My mind raced. This wasn't just infidelity. This was something far more sinister. I peered again, my eyes scanning the room. On the vanity, amidst Madison's perfumes and lotions, lay a stack of documents. Madison's banking statements, investment account numbers, and a glossy real estate listing for a magnificent villa in the Bahamas under the name Mitchell Holdings, LLC. Mitchell. That was Jason's last name. My brain, the one that had pieced together countless teenage dramas and hidden agendas, connected the dots with horrifying speed. This wasn't just a sordid affair. It was a calculated scheme, a systematic draining of my daughter's hard-earned money. My knees nearly buckled. The initial shock turned into an icy wave of resolve. My daughter, my kind, trusting Madison, was being financially ruined by the two people she loved and trusted most. In that moment, standing frozen outside that bathroom door, tears welling in my eyes, a profound shift occurred within me. The hurt, the shock, the grandmotherly tenderness, all of it congealed into something cold, hard, and utterly determined. I was no longer a grieving widow or a retired teacher. I was a mother lion protecting her cub. They thought I was just an old woman, harmless and easily dismissed. They would soon learn the cost of underestimating Elizabeth Walker. There was no room for emotion now, only strategy. I took a deep, shaky breath, straightened my spine, and my teacher's brain, which had for years observed, analyzed, and solved problems, clicked into a different gear. I had to act, and I had to act fast, with precision. My first move was to quietly, meticulously close the bathroom door. A soft click as the lock engaged. Then, with a speed I didn't know I still possessed, I snatched the financial documents from the vanity, tucking them into my large handbag. I moved through Madison's house like a phantom, my memory recalling every detail, every item. I needed more evidence. In Madison's study, I found her laptop open. With trembling fingers, I opened her online banking, her investment portfolio. The numbers confirmed my worst fears. Large regular transfers out of her accounts, labeled investment opportunities or joint venture capital. These were the fake investments Jason and Veronica were discussing. I quickly snapped photos of everything with my phone, a digital trail that would be undeniable. My old notebooks, usually filled with gardening tips and recipes, would soon hold a different kind of record. I knew I needed to get Madison here. And David, Veronica's husband. David, a successful attorney, was a good man, utterly devoted to Veronica. The betrayal would shatter him, too. First, Madison. I pulled out my phone, my voice steady, despite the hurricane raging inside me. Madison, darling, it's Mom. Listen, I'm at your place and there's a bit of a plumbing emergency. The water heater is making a terrible noise, and I'm worried it's going to burst. Can you come home? I don't want to touch anything. A plumbing emergency was plausible enough to get her away from work. Next, David. David, it's Elizabeth. I'm so sorry to bother you, but Veronica left something crucial at Madison's. Her medication, I think. She'll need it. Could you possibly pop over and grab it for her? It's really important. The bait was set. While I waited, I continued my silent reconnaissance, my eyes sharp, taking in every detail, committing it to memory. I saw a small notebook on Jason's side of the bed, a journal. I flipped through it. Dates, amounts, names, all coded, but the pattern was clear, a ledger of Madison's dwindling funds. I took pictures. My heart hardened with each click of the camera. It felt like an eternity, but within 20 minutes, Madison's car pulled into the driveway, followed closely by David's sleek sedan. I met them at the door, my face a mask of concern that didn't quite betray the simmering fury beneath. Mom? What's wrong with the water heater? Madison asked, her brows furrowed. Elizabeth, is Veronica okay? David looked anxious. Everything is fine, Madison. The plumbing is a fabrication, I said, my voice eerily calm. Their expressions shifted to confusion, then alarm. What are you talking about, Mom? Madison asked, sensing the change in my demeanor. I'm talking about betrayal, darling. The kind that cuts to the bone. I led them into the living room, my hands clasped tightly in front of me. There are 2 people in your bathroom right now, Madison, who shouldn't be there. And what they're doing isn't just a betrayal of your heart. It's a calculated assault on your entire future. I looked at David. And Veronica is one of them, David, with Jason. Madison's eyes widened in disbelief, then horror. David's face went white. No, Madison whispered, shaking her head. No, Mom, you must be mistaken. I wish I were, sweetheart, but I assure you, I am not. I took a breath, and it goes far, far deeper than infidelity. I pulled the documents from my bag, laying them on the coffee table, the bank statements, the investment portfolio, the photos of the Bahamian villa, the coded ledger. Jason and Veronica have been systematically draining your accounts, Madison, through fake investments, through fraudulent schemes. They were just talking about how easily deceived you are and how the Bahamas house is almost fully funded by your money. The words hung heavy in the air, each one a hammer blow. Madison stared at the documents, her face crumpling as the truth sank in. David, looking utterly devastated, picked up one of the investment statements, his lawyer's eye immediately spotting the inconsistencies, the red flags. This is an outright fraud, he muttered, his voice hoarse with shock. Just then, a furious pounding started from upstairs. Elizabeth, open this door! What is going on out there? It was Jason, his voice laced with panic. Veronica's shrill, panicked cries followed. I didn't even flinch. I'm calling the police, I stated, pulling out my phone. Madison, though heartbroken, nodded numbly. David, his hands shaking, seconded the motion. I'll call them too. This is criminal. Detective Harrison from the local police department arrived within minutes, his expression grim as he surveyed the scene. He swiftly went upstairs, and soon we heard the sounds of shouting, then handcuffs clicking. Jason and Veronica were brought downstairs, their faces a mixture of fear, anger, and utter shock at seeing us all. Veronica's makeup was streaked, mascara running down her face, a grotesque parody of tears. Jason tried to bluster, to deny, but the documents, the ledger, the sheer weight of evidence I'd gathered silenced him. But the situation escalated rapidly, beyond a local police matter. Within the hour, a black SUV with Pinnacle Financial Security emblazoned on the side pulled up, followed by an unmarked car. Patricia Morgan, the head of internal security for Pinnacle, strode in, her face set. She'd been investigating irregularities in Madison's accounts, a fact Madison had dismissed as a glitch. The FBI, led by Agent Rodriguez, was close behind. It turned out that the fake investments Jason and Veronica were funneling Madison's money into were part of a much larger, sophisticated criminal network targeting high-net-worth clients across multiple states. Agent Rodriguez, a sharp, no-nonsense woman, looked at me with a newfound respect when she saw the detailed evidence I'd amassed. It was then that the true mastermind was revealed, Richard Carlson, Madison's senior partner at Pinnacle Financial. My blood ran cold again, but this time it was a deeper, more chilling fear. Agent Rodriguez explained that Carlson had been grooming Madison for years. He identified her as a target after her father's passing, Mrs. Walker. He saw her vulnerability, her grief, her drive to succeed. Then it clicked, a horrific, sickening realization. I remembered Carlson approaching me at Robert's funeral, a sympathetic arm around my shoulder, offering Madison helpful career advice, encouraging her to pursue opportunities at Pinnacle, hinting at a bright future under his mentorship. He wasn't offering comfort. He was assessing his mark, meticulously planning her downfall. He had preyed on our family's grief, used my daughter's vulnerability and ambition as a weapon against her. The sheer depravity of it made my stomach churn. Jason and Veronica were just puppets, willing participants in Carlson's elaborate scheme. They were immediately taken into federal custody, facing charges of grand larceny, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Over the next few days, Madison was a shell of herself. The betrayal was crushing, not just from her boyfriend and best friend, but from the man she admired and trusted at work, her mentor. She recovered some of her composure, a quiet fury replacing her heartbreak. David, too, was devastated, but he channeled his shock into action, cooperating fully with the FBI, providing crucial insights into Veronica's habits and communications. My teacher's methodical nature, which had always helped me organize classrooms and lesson plans, now served a far more critical purpose.